There was a point in which I had to call the accountant and be like, what's a liquidation?
Hello and welcome back to Indie Bites, the podcast where I bring you stories of fellow indie hackers in 15 minutes or less. Today I'm joined by Sam King, who is the founder of Flick, a tool for managing and growing your social media, doing over 3.5 million ARR fully bootstrapped. Sam has taken a unique path into bootstrapping, first being a YouTuber, then running an agency before flipping it into a SaaS with Flick. There is an hour-long extended version of this episode available on the Indie Bites membership. Head to indiebites.com/membership to subscribe. Now, in this episode, we talk about hiring when it hurts, and Sam sure did feel a lot of pain before he started hiring. But I wish I'd been able to recommend today's sponsor to him, which would have helped out a bunch with design. That is, of course, Figura. Figura offers the best vetted product designers and contractors to give you a hand with your design. They're actually live on Product Hunt today, so go and check them out and give them some love. And finally, founder Dennis has given Indie Bites listeners a brilliant deal to start you off. Use code INDIE199 to get $199 off to start your project for free. Go show Figura some love, head to figura.digital or hit the link in the show notes. Let's get into this episode. Sam, welcome to the pod. How are you doing?
Good. Hello.
I want to talk about your background. You haven't been on many podcasts before. People won't know this unless they've been to IndieBiz, but you went from YouTuber to founder. Not many indie hackers would have gone through that route. So tell me about starting YouTube and did you think it was something that was going to be a career for you?
To be honest, it was always just like a bit of fun. Like I think I've always been like somewhat creative in my life. But I think after a year or so and a bit more, you build a little bit of a following, you start getting a couple of deals come through. You're like, oh, actually, maybe this has got some legs and maybe we can take it somewhere.
When did you start making money from it?
I think I did my first brand deal when I was about 17. And actually it was with a company called Fanbytes. And I think I was their first sponsor and they were my first sponsor.
Talk to me about how you went from YouTuber to starting your agency.
I guess like at the beginning, YouTube was like this kind of fun thing and I got a little bit of money here and there, but it did very much transition into like, this is my job. I think, there was at the time, especially, and I think probably still so now, like how brands tried to work with influencers and creators, it was very early. So like no one really knew how to do it. So there was always a part of me was like, oh, do you know what? I wish I could like make this process better for me and my friends. And the main aim was just like, okay, well, let's help brands work with people better.
I'm interested to know like how you got your first clients for this agency, because like usually if people start an agency, they would have worked at one before and thought, I can do this better, or they would have learned the ropes at once.
We did have someone that came in more on the business side of things who had some contacts that we could use and lean on a little bit there, because we couldn't go to like a really big company and go, hey, brand, do you want to work with us? Because they wouldn't reply to us. But what we could do is I had some relationships with some agencies and we kind of reached out to some agencies that we knew were doing some work with creators and influencers, but they probably wanted to be focusing more on the creative side. So we ended up partnering with Ogilvy, which is like an ad agency, and then worked with them on some other stuff.
So you influenced yourself, turned founders of this influencer agency, but then you sort of pivoted that to growth, right?
Yeah. So with the influencer stuff, it was really, really tough to compete. We were like a very, very small team. And we had these really, really big like influencer agencies that could do, they had like hundreds of employees doing it. And we were like, okay, this is actually like, it's really hard for us to compete on price here because they've got so much scale there. And then a lot of the clients were coming and being like, yeah, we want influencers. But actually what they were asking for is impressions or conversions and stuff like that. And they were kind of like putting influencer plaster on their big like marketing problems. And we were kind of like, we can't actually help you because what you need here is something different than this. Like you're looking at, and not that you can't get the conversions through this way, but it's like you're trying to do this, but there's a big old hole in your funnel here. And like, so it ended up just being like, actually, well, maybe we can help you run your Instagram account, or maybe we can, do this. And, probably not the best thing to do is basically expand your offering. And then, it was like, oh, we'll help you run your Instagram account, or, oh, you want to do some email marketing? Yeah. Okay. You want to do some landing pages? You want to do paid social? And then, kind of.
How did you know this stuff? Like you're coming across like at this point, we know exactly how to do it, but had you done this stuff for yourself or were you just agreeing to do it for clients? And
this was probably like the most fake it till you make it things you've ever done. Like we kind of sold it in and we were like, well, look, if they buy it, then we'll work out how to do it. Right. And you know what? So I basically sat there, I was like, right, we've got someone who wants paid social. We were going to get a freelancer in, but actually turns out it doesn't really work very well. So I'll do it and yeah, to see how it goes.
So you've sort of had a trial by fire here. YouTuber to agency where you're just accepting any work, doing it, and then you sort of made that into something more cohesive and you're earning money all along. But then you did eventually pivot into what you're doing now with Flick. Tell me how Flick came about, this SaaS tool that you built while you were still running this growth agency.
We got to a point where we knew we were having issues as an agency. Like we just didn't know how to get it to work. We weren't retaining people because it was all ad hoc based, like campaigns, like let's do this one thing and then like maybe, do something else in the future.
And you were learning on the job.
And we were learning on the job. So, we got to a point where cash flow wasn't particularly great. So what happened then is we thought about, what are some of our better options? So we tried to bring someone in for marketing. So someone to help with more of the inbound leads. And kind of funny because I probably should have done that myself. But at the time we had clients. I was doing that. I was like, I can't, And yeah, so we brought on someone called Loic. So he's one of the founders now. And he kind of came in as someone to help us with that. And when we were kind of doing the campaigns, he was kind of looking at this like creator influencer search engine. It's like based on hashtags, right? We're like, yeah, well, basically it looks at a hashtag and it goes on some other hashtags and then it finds who's like looking at that, who's posting with that. So it's like, people would probably like pay for the hashtag part, not forget the influence bit, but just like a little tool that helps them find the hashtags. We're like, all right, well, give it a go. And, so him and our CTO at the time are going to put together this little tool and kind of put it out into the world, work with some affiliates and whatnot. And yeah, it got some traction. We're like, oh my God, we're looking at it, we're like, so it was making about 5,000 a month, at this point. And we were like, how much money do we need to make as an agency to make 5,000 in profit? We'd have to have made like 50,000 in sales just to get that 5,000 in 1 month. So we were kind of just at this point, like, well, maybe we just do this. So what ended up happening is, we basically kept Flick and I kind of took Flick on as if it was a client of the agency. And I basically was like, right, paid social, landing pages, email marketing, we were going with it. And yeah, it just got to a point where like, there's no way we should continue doing this. So we had to let all of our, we didn't have that many at the time, but we kind of just like, no more agency, cut ties with all the clients, like just that week. And we're just like, let's just do this because if we don't, like, this is just not a sustainable business for us. And it's also not very fun.
That first 5K in revenue that you got, was that just from sort of agency clients? Was it other people you were going out to?
No, so this was predominantly through influencers. So this was, people who had audiences, within the Instagram marketing space, and we had an affiliate program. So it was basically just, like, if you can get people to sign up, 20% of the revenue every single month can be yours. And in a lot of areas, affiliate programs don't really work. Like if you try to do an affiliate program with like maybe like a more commercial YouTuber or something like that, it probably wouldn't go the same way because they're looking more for like a direct payout. But with these very niche people, what you get is that they actually know that their audience is going to be interested in this thing, and they actually see that as a way better option because they can have reoccurring commission. So every month we had people like earning like basically salaries for bringing us customers, and it was really interesting to see it in a different world because previously we'd done like Coca-Cola or something like that, and then now we were just like very niche Instagram marketing guru on YouTube, and yeah, it was very different.
Okay, so it seems like it's quite a nice flow between YouTuber to agency to software, because a lot of people will be in the position of I'm working a job, I've got an idea, I've got a product, I don't know how to market it, I don't know how to get users. You've basically just taken action. First of all, the agency, right? Let's just get people paying us and we'll figure out how to do it. Trading time for money, that sort of work. And then you applied what you knew from the agency and growth and as a team of marketers to get your first customers for the software. And only when that got to a point did you go, right, okay, our software's working, it's validated. Were you thinking about validation at this point, or was it, no, this is making money and it just makes sense for us to move over to it?
At the very beginning, it was this has to work. Because we had to.
At the beginning when you left the.
Well, yeah, when we had this transitioning period between being the agency and being the software, we needed the software money to make sure everything stayed calm in the world of agency and like everything worked. Because without that, if we hadn't have made it work, I don't really know what situation we would have been in. Like there was a point in which we were looking at like I had to call the accountant and be like, what's a liquidation? But obviously it was also very much an MVP. I think actually if you look back on it, it's probably the best possible way of doing it. Like we're really, but I think, there's a lot of people that will maybe wait for the right time to take action. But I think we were just in a situation where we take action or die. So it's a good motivation if you can stomach it.
So how did you go from sort of that transition period, dropping your agency clients and working on Flick? What were you doing to grow it? You mentioned landing pages, email, ads. What were like the biggest drivers of growth for you? And think people that are listening, what advice can they take to scale their product using some of the marketing you've done?
The affiliate program was probably the biggest thing for the first maybe 50k MRR, kind of supported with paid ads. So I guess for context, we were getting people to sign up for a trial, about £4 to £6, and they would convert around 40 to 50% to a paying customer. At least they'd pay us at least one time. And that first payment was about £15. So with the affiliate program, it was almost like having your own YouTube channel. These people would rank on the keywords that we needed. But we could never, ever get there at that point in time because it was like, Instagram hashtag tool or Instagram hashtag strategy or grow through hashtags Instagram. But our friend here with 100,000 subscribers who makes videos about YouTube and Instagram all the time and is consistently ranked on the first page. I think probably one of the most crazy moments is a video got like 500,000 views from this person. And I think we shot up like 20 something thousand in MRR that 1 month. And we were like, oh my God, what did we just do? So there was, not only was there like the affiliate program, but it was also because we'd then seeded ourselves within a community of people. It was like, well, other people were then, because it was useful to that audience.
So you've had this big shock of income basically from working hard, getting these YouTubers sharing it. You had that month where you went up by 20k. What sort of growth challenges did you then have and how did you deal with them?
At the very start of a product, it's just like growth. Great, like more customers, but you don't really know the life cycle yet. So like you're kind of in this position where it's like, yes, new people, but you don't actually understand yet how your churn works or how people activate on your product or, like what are the engagement metrics that actually matter to these people, like when they're using your product. So that all happened. And then we realized actually we have quite high churn. I think there was a point in which we had like 25% churn or something every month. So that was definitely like a pivotal moment being like, oh, this is not finished. We are in still early stage and we got quite lucky with a decent amount of growth at the beginning. I would say from there, we just really, really, really focused on the product.
So now you're at 3.5 million ARR. Absolutely amazing. What you've made it, right? What's more to want? So tell me from now, where do you go? Do you do what V did and go and raise money? Do you step back from it yourself and go and do something else? Where do you want to go with Flick?
So I think, there's a couple elements to that answer. The first is like, we also had another problem, which is, we grew it, but we didn't hire very quickly. So what happened is it was still, I think, just me, Andy, Loic, and one engineer until we hit around 80,000 in monthly revenue. But the issue is we were like, we are just so engrossed in this business now. Like whenever it came to thinking about hiring or anything, it was like, well, we just have to stop moving the product forward to do that. So I think that was probably one of the, outside of like growth things, more of as business problems, that was something that was really hard and we didn't know how to solve because we were like, well, we just have to stop and try and hire more people. So we kind of slowly did that. We still we didn't go crazy on the hiring. At the beginning, we followed the philosophy of like, don't hire until you feel the pain, which very much came back to bite us when we realized how much pain we were feeling. We had no time to hire more people.
Sam, you've been a great guest, mate. We end on 3 recommendations: a book, a podcast, an indie hacker or entrepreneur that you follow or you're inspired by.
So the book one, I think I was most inspired by Shoe Dog. But then if I was to be like, here's a really practical one, it would be Everybody Writes, the book I showed you earlier. But I think Anne Handaway, something like that.
It's all right. I'll put a link for the show notes.
Honestly, like I only listen to 2 podcasts, yours, and I sometimes listen to The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett.
And then finally, indie hacker, entrepreneur.
So maybe Barretto on Twitter, who does Tiny Host. I always see his tweets.
Perfect. All right. Sam, fantastic. Thank you for joining the pod. My first ever in-person one.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Indie Bites. All links to everything discussed will be in the show notes as always. A big thank you to today's sponsor, Figura, the best place to find designers for your product. And finally, if you have a podcast but editing takes up all of your time, drop me a message to help you out. I run an editing service called Pod Panda to help you get your time back and fire up your production value. That's all from me. See you next week.